Hi everybody, this is Kimberly from Starfish Design Embroidery Group. Wow, today I'm doing 2 videos. How about that? I just finished the video for the hip hugger bag. Isn't it adorable? And next is coming the, I don't have a name for it yet, heart bag. So, cast the characters here. Got our zipper. Needs to be 2 inches wider, 1 inch either side than your placement. This is, we're doing the traditional kind of zipper pouch with the 2 pieces on the front. That's much easier than the other one anyway. So we have our 2 linings for that, to the main exterior lining or interior lining. Then likewise we have our 2 pieces of vinyl for the exterior and our back vinyl. And then we have 2 straps for D-ring. For these I take 3/4 inch of the vinyl. I worry that this vinyl, this is pretty good, it's marine vinyl, but just to give it a little bit extra security, I put a 1/2 inch of Decovil Light, or you could do Decor Bond. It does make it a lot thicker though, so beware if your machine can handle that. I'm using a 9014 needle because I'm not adding any additional embroidery to the bag. If you're using additional embroidery, then go ahead and start your bag out with a 7511, whatever your traditional needle size is that you use for embroidery, but switch to a 9014 when you get to the construction period. I have gone ahead and stitched our placement line. I'm going to admit this is probably not going to hold most iPhones, but it's adorable, so I had to make one. So we have our general outline, so you'll be able to center everything. Then we have 3 lines of our zipper. You're going to pay most attention to this middle line. In fact, that's the only line that we pay attention to, but these lines are provided for lining up the material pieces. You'll be using those lines. In regard to the bag, think of the bag as top and bottom of the bag, not the orientation, the hoop. This is a 7.9 by 7.9, so it ends up being a square, but not all of the bags will. So to tack down my zipper, I'm going to start on the right-hand side. I'm sorry this is boring for people who have already seen this. I'm going to go ahead and I'm using zipper tape, so there's no stop. I'm going to go ahead and melt the edge here. I actually didn't line it up very well, but just to make sure it doesn't come undone. So I'm going to put that down here on the bottom and tape it down. And I'm going to do what I like to call walking my zipper down the placement, the line. Oh, where'd the skinny zipper tape go? Oh, I lost my skinny tape. There it is. I was always just cutting this in half, and I finally realized just get some of the 1/2 inch. It comes in 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and walk this down the zipper, the middle line, lining up this middle part here. It's easier to see because this is white, with this middle line. And then I'm going to put a piece of tape on both sides, but I'm going to start on the right side, and I'm going to try and line the tape up right on the very edge. It's fine if the needle goes through it, but if it doesn't, then we can reuse this piece of tape on another project. So again, I'm going to go ahead and line this up and walk it down. And as I get to a section folded down enough to put the tape down, I'm going to put the tape down. And this gives us a much better chance of making sure our zipper is really even. Again, I'm lining it up there and placing it right down there. You cannot rely on zippers all being exactly 1 inch. In fact, I really love this zipper tape from Cam Snaps, but I've actually found inconsistencies between the color. The bluish color is actually only 7/8 inch. So if you're trying to center that in between 2 lines, you're kind of just winging it, making sure. So my bags, I use that center zipper line, and everything is based off of that for my alignment and my spacing. Now, I can't get perfection because my embroidery software is not perfect, but I do try for having a really good experience. I like to use a bigger piece and move this pole out of the way to hold down the very end and the pole. We do not want this pole getting in our stitch path. Now we're going to go ahead and run the tack down. I'm hooped poly mesh because this stabilizer is going to stay in the bag. You can use tearaway if it's a softer tearaway, but I don't like the crunchy feeling that most tearaways put inside of a bag. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and remove the tape. You can remove it on the end down here. We don't need it anymore there. And then all these skinny pieces, and try and salvage as many of them as you can to reuse. And you'll notice this tape, you do have to be a little careful on the placement stitch because it's just a single, but it doesn't normally tear it out, but it holds it down really well. Especially fabric, it works best on fabric. On vinyl, you do need to be a little careful because it can leave a residue in some of the vinyls. This is transport type medical tape from 3M. I get it in the 12 count box on Amazon for the 1 inch, and then the 1/2 inch comes in a 24 count box. All right, so I did a decent job lining that up. You want to make sure it's even. I'm gonna pause because I'm trying something new and I'm taking the video screens to do the PDF. And actually this one doesn't really need, this is just a zipper pouch, straightforward zipper pouch. So we're gonna do our bottom lining first. We're gonna flip this over, and we're gonna take the chevron. We're gonna put the lining so that the bottom, what is the top edge, is aligned with the bottom edge of the zipper placement line, and center it over there. And then we're gonna tape it down. Now, all machines are different. You might need to float this, turn this around in your software or on your machine if it doesn't work with your hoop situation. Like on my 350E, the hoop came up at the top, so this would have been an issue, so I would have had to fold it down and tape it. But on this machine, I'm fine. I don't have to worry about that. And then we're gonna take our vinyl. This is Radish Marine Vinyl from My Embroidery. And we're gonna lay that also right side facing down, the right or pretty side facing down. And when they're a little bit longer pieces, I tend to like to put a piece of tape in the middle as well. Like the 5x7s, I don't worry too much, but this one I'm gonna put a piece of tape down the center as well. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna use silver tape or silver thread for the accent, so it's going to be a little bit harder for you to see, but this is a really basic zipper pouch at this point. This will be a really easy one to do. I'm not adding any embroidery to this one, but I left a large expanse for you to add embroidery. So now we've gone ahead and stitched that down, and we're going to flip it over and flip our lining down. Grayson? Shh. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead and finger press this gently because you do not want to tear your, take your hoop apart and then tape it down again. And then likewise, we're going to finger press this on the front. And having one of these little boning tools is helpful to finger press the vinyl because it's a lot harder to finger press. The other thing you could do is put a piece of tape, double-side tape here, and that'll help hold it down as well. I don't find that necessary, but some of the vinyls are really thick. This one's actually really thick. Oh, the color's not exactly right. Darn it. This is more of a pink. That's okay. We're dealing with it. We're running with it. I was going for the Valentine look, but I guess red and pink can be Valentine colors. I cut this a little bit long, so I'm going to go ahead and tape that down here to my frame. But basically, you need to have this taped down to hold it in place so we can do the top stitch. So now we're going to go ahead and put this back on. Again, so we're going to make sure it's taped down. Put it back on here, and we're going to do the top stitch now. in this case, the top stitch is actually a nice little motif. I'm going to stop this 1 second because I can see right now that thread is cut, but also I'm just wanting to come up. I think it's okay. You'll want to tape that. I should have used that sticky tape solution I suggested to you because it's like not wanting to stay down. That's okay. I think I got it. I think it's good. All right. And I actually had that go right through the lining. But if you didn't want it to go through the lining, you could have left the lining up before this step. But I think it lined up pretty well. Let me trim away this little jump while I'm thinking of it, because otherwise they just get stuck in your seam and you can't get rid of them. Okay, so now we're ready to do the top. So if you wanted to add any extra decoration here, so like we're on step 5 right now. I don't actually know how to do this. Let's see. Let's go home. Let's go to a monogram. Let's see. Gothic. We don't want that. I've never done this before. Let's try and see. Normal sew, 3 letters. What is normal sew? Do we have a pretty little heart in here? Oh, it's really hard to see these. I'm just looking to see if there's anything cute in here that we could use real quick. Why is there no heart? What's that? Oh, that's to make it go that direction. We have borders. You can tell I've used this a lot, can't you? Oh, there we go. I found it. Now I found the petite designs. There's got to be a heart or something in here. Oh, there's a flower. Oh, there's a heart. What is this little thing here? I don't know what this is, but it's kind of neat. Let's see what it is. So I have this here. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that it's not going to go beyond my machine. So I'm going to go ahead and move it down as soon as I figure out how. I should know how to do this, right? All right. So, no, that's not what I want. Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to lower it down on my hoop a little bit. All right, and where's my center there? I think this is going to fit. So what I'm going to do now is check. Okay, so the outside is going to come all the way over here to here, that corner. This corner is going to go up there. That corner is going to go up to here. And this corner is going to go there. And it's actually not centered well. So I'm going to go ahead and push it back up. All right, there we go. Let's check it. I think the default was okay. It is. Okay, perfect. So this looks like a kind of dense design. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of tearaway under the hoop where that's going to stitch. So what I'm going to do then, okay, so what I've done is I brought up a picture on my machine right there. And I made sure by using the hoop arrangements that it was going to fit my design in my bag. Okay, but I don't want that to stitch through my lining. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my lining up. out of the way for right now. And I'll tuck that over. And then I'm going to put a piece of, just a piece of extra tearaway, since I have it here, or you could use poly mesh. I'm going to lay that underneath there just to give a little bit more support. And then we're going to go ahead and stitch out this design. And then we'll return to our hoop pattern and finish it. So this may take just a few minutes because I've never actually used any of these designs in here. It says 4 minutes. If I figure out how to fast forward, I'll fast forward through this on the video. Trim it out, that is. So that's all you have to do is load up your new design, so you already have it, and use your little, I'm over here using my finger, use your positioning on your machine to position your design. If you have software like Embroidery Essentials, you can do it in the software and then save it. But whenever you use software, make sure it does not mess up the stitch count in the hoop project, or color merge them. All of my files, especially any in the last 3 to 4 months, should have a different color for every step. That's to force single needle machines to stop so you can do some action. People who have multi-needle machines know how to go ahead and stop, because the multi-needle machine will just keep going. So I sit at my machine and just manually hit the stop, but you can program in stops on the multi-needle machine. But that's how easy it was now to do that. I just lifted up and made sure it was going to fit in my general outline, gave it a general stitch area, and I have no idea what this is. It's some kind of flowers or something. 2 minutes left. Whilst that's working, what can I talk about? So what we're going to finish then is we're going to put the top on, and pull the lining back on, put the top on, stitch it, do the little motif fill, then we're going to put the back on. This particular bag will be available in unlined and lined. I'm using this marine vinyl, and this is a nice texture that if you use it unlined, it's perfectly fine. This is what I just did the fanny pack in. It has a felt, and sometimes it'll attract glitter or dust or whatever, but it's the same thing. It's nice thick. You can do it unlined if you want. It's not going to fray on the edges. So the key is to have a vinyl that's not going to fray on you. So you will have both the unlined and the lined file. The default file will be lined. You cannot just skip a step in the lined to make it unlined, because the final, there's no stitch that goes all the way around to seal it. I take that back. You probably could run the placement line, the very first placement line, twice at the end instead of the two placement or the two lines, but that's not how it's been designed. That's not how it's programmed. So while it finishes that, I'm going to go ahead and get my D-rings ready. One thing to always know is how much your machine can handle, because this vinyl is thick, and I'm using a 9014 needle. Here I could have used a 7511 if I didn't want to switch. Hopefully it'll stitch okay. I just realized that. The risk is if you cut the vinyl with all that puncturing, those holes punching down for the design I just stitched. Oh, where's my D-rings at? Oh, okay, so it's done. So I'm not ready for my D-rings yet. Okay, so we have some jump strings in here from that design, just a few. So you can go ahead and trim those off now or later. But it's just a cute little design. I could have probably made it bigger, but I'm just going to show you the idea. So now go back over here in the back and remove that extra stabilizer. And fold your lining back down. Okay, and hold that down. Tape it back down. All right, now back on the back, we're going to take our second piece of lining. Grayson, our second piece of lining, and we're going to place that right side down so it's along the top of that zipper line at the top. Now, if you're using a wider zipper, please make sure that you test first. This bag should accommodate a number 5. That is what I used in the hip hugger bag. And you can see that how much space was left between the zipper tape. That was the number 5 zipper. But not all bags are going to be accommodating that. The dog is just really going crazy because he wants the attention from his boy. Okay, so we've gone ahead and placed that down. Now on the front, take your little small piece, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to lay that right side down to the top of that zipper. Like that, and we're going to tape it down. Another room, please. I had no desire or no plan to do this today. Actually, poor Mary's probably going to be mad at me. I was going to do a sewing video today, but I woke up with this on my mind. I'm like, I got to do something for hearts. It's Valentine's Day coming up. And then I fell back to sleep. I worked on this last night and I fell back to sleep. And I woke up this morning and all I could think of was this bag, this hip hugger bag. I'm like, it had to come out. So I did it. I'm like, you know what? I'm home. I'm going to go ahead and get this stitched out because I can go ahead and get it ready to send to the testers today. Okay, so I got ahead and taped that down. And now we're going to go ahead and run the tack down. Oops. What did I do wrong, guys? Look where my needle's at. We need to reload our design. So I'm going to come back over here and reload my design. Okay, and I got to skip forward to the step to tack that down. Which, if you look in your PDF, it'll tell you. I believe it was step 5 that I was at. Yep. Step 5. And now I'm going to go ahead and tack that down. And it looks like I was very generous with the cutting instructions for this one. I was not so good on the other one. I have to adjust the cutting directions on the other one and make it a little bit bigger. It was a little tight in a few areas. So we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it over and flip that up. And tape it down. Make sure you get that piece right here in the middle. Okay, finger crease it. All right, and now I'm gonna flip this over and do the same thing. And we're gonna get our little boning tool out. Don't pull this too tautly because you don't want to see your stitches. If you pull it too tautly, you're gonna see your stitches. And I think, will this work? This is really tight, so it's not gonna work. It's too tight. I made it too wide to tape down well, but it's too, this vinyl wants to kind of stay up, so it's going to be hard to tape down. I want my motif to, I don't want it to pucker up when it's doing that motif stitch. So I'm going to try and get it to tape to the hoop and stay to the hoop really well. I'm going to tape it all the way up underneath the back like that. There we go. That should be good. All right, now we're going to put this back under here and we're going to stitch the top stitch, which is again a cute little heart motif. Try not to do what I'm doing. I'm going to actually just stop this for a minute. I'm going to use this because it's kind of trying to come up. So I'm going to try and guide it along with this. I don't want that to buckle up. I don't want my finger down there. If it hits this thing, the worst thing that's going to happen is it's going to break the needle. If it's my finger, I'm going to be in the emergency room with a potentially $3,000 to $4,000 emergency room bill to have a needle taken out of my finger. saw a picture of one lady on some group. It went through her bone. All right. There we go. And again, you could have folded this down if you didn't want it on there. So that, look how fast it is. We are almost ready to be done with this. So next we're going to go ahead and run the placement for the D-ring strap connectors. And they're a little bit awkwardly placed because it's a heart. And I was trying to decide where I wanted to put them. Okay, well, it's in there. I need to find the other strip, other bag of them. Oh, they're there. What is this for? All right, so when we do our D-ring strap connectors, the thing we need to think about is how much space is between your presser foot and the stitch path. My presser foot's kind of tiny on this one, but they're not all. So you need to make sure that you leave enough room between that placement line and how much room your foot needs to get past it. And then center this over that placement line. This is going to be at an angle. Let me see, make sure that's going to work right. So then it's going to come up like that. I think it's going to be fine. Because we could do it like this, but that's going to be awkward because it's at an angle. So we're going to try it like this. I might be wrong on it, but we'll try it. And so I've got it over about half an inch. These are 3-inch strips. And I'm going to put the extra tape over it because I don't want the presser foot to get stuck on this. So if you put that extra thick tape, it gives a little bridge for the presser foot to glide across. Let me trim this little there. And the same thing over here. I'm going to guesstimate about half an inch. I'm going to tape it down. And you can see how close we are to the edge of the frame here. This design's taking up the entire frame. All right, now we're going to run the tack down. And I'm going to be watching and lifting up my presser foot. I'm sorry, that should be a bean stitch. I will correct that in the file by the time you get it. And because I don't want my machine to get stuck on that D-ring. And on this machine, the way it does all the back and forth, this side's right, that can happen. As soon as I hear the thread cutter, I lift it up like that. Great. So there we go. Did that thread not cut? Weird. Oh, see, the furnace is on and I smell smoke. It's got to be bringing in air from outside, and my neighbors are such bad smokers. Oh, I can't handle it. Thought it was bad when you lived in an apartment complex. All right, I'm going to trim these little jumps and get them out of the way. These tails. All right, so there we go. And I can tell by looking I didn't get it even. But that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. All right, so now we're ready to go ahead and do our exterior. So we need to go ahead and pull our zipper pull over. And that tape kind of got stuck in there. That's okay. It comes out really well. And then I'm not going to be stitching anymore in the middle of this, so I don't need to tape this jingly down. It shouldn't get in the stitch path, but I do want to put a piece of tape right here, because what happens is when the presser foot hits that zipper, it's no longer closed because we just opened it. So when it hits it, it could potentially separate it out. And I'm also gonna be mindful of that D-ring. I just realized I wasn't mindful of that. If it's gonna bypass that, it should. The stitch is gonna come across this way. So I'm putting that there. All right, and then on the back, we're good. We're gonna go ahead and stitch the exterior down. Oh, actually, we don't need to do that because we're doing the exterior now. Just realized, so we don't really need that piece of tape. the exterior is going to hang it up. I'm used to doing more steps in this. This is actually not that many steps. Okay, so let's put him down. We're going to lay this down and make sure it's centered over there. Pull up on the bottom if you have to make sure that it's centered. I cut these pieces generously enough. I am going to try and kind of look under here a little bit because, all right, here it is, because I don't really want to waste the vinyl either. Yeah, that's good. If I can salvage some of it, why not, you know? This one's not real bulky underneath, so I'm just going to tape all the corners. In this first round, we're just going to be taping, stitching our exteriors together where we're going to turn the bag. Oh, and the tiredness is hitting me. I could not get to sleep until 3 o'clock this morning. And then my son woke me up. Something about the bathroom light was going on, and he was afraid that somebody was here, and I could not get back to sleep after that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and run the exteriors together. This is just a partial seam, so that's going to be where our turning hole is at. I'm going to lift this all the way up so it doesn't try and hit that D-ring. It didn't. Now we're going to turn it over, and we're going to cut out our seam, our stabilizer behind our zipper. I like to use my seam ripper. So I hold this carefully. I'm doing this in the frame. Get this underneath, and you can see your blade of your seam ripper underneath the stabilizer. And then just cut across the top or the bottom, whichever side you're doing first. And just glide it right across. And let me take that tape off. That tape got in the way. All right, and then we'll come to the end. Sometimes you do have to get the scissors out to get across this little end. Let's try it. I like to try and poke the end of this, the tip of the seam ripper right out right there so that it doesn't tear into the fabric. See that? Oops. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and again here sometimes you have to get the scissors to start it, but this time it's being good to me, and just go ahead and cut all this out. It's so much easier to do the stabilizer when it's still hooped, because the hoop is providing some what's the word I want? Tension to it. And I'm going to grab the scissors because sometimes that happens when you get to that little last bit. I got that tip from my friend Ricky Gardner at String Theory Fabric Arts. Her designs are absolutely phenomenal. Right now we're ready to go ahead and put our backing on. So again, we're going to go right sides together. Line that up at the top. And you can reuse whatever tape you have on the back here if it's reusable. Grayson, sorry. He's so bad about not paying attention to the dog. Grayson? Dog? Even like if he's in the other room right next to her, he still ignores her. All right, there we go. All taped and ready to go. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back down. And now it's gonna go ahead and run our partial seam all the way around the bag. I'm not doing a separate video for the, wait 1 second. When you do this, make sure that your D-rings did not come loose and flip up, because sometimes they do. Let me reach under here, make sure they didn't. And this one did. I'm glad I checked. Instinct. Sometimes the vibration lifts them, flips them up. Okay, this one's not. I'm not going to do a separate video for the online bag. It's basically the same thing except no lining. This is going to do a quick little double loop around. See how it overlaps that first stitch for the holding the exteriors together. Ideally, you should really be using a thread at this point that matches your vinyl, because sometimes you can see the stitches. I should have changed it and I didn't. All right, there you go. So now before we unhoop this, and it's straighter over there, it seems. No, maybe it's not. Always look on the back and make sure that your backing lining did not come loose. And you'll see here's our opening. There's on a slight curve and everything's clean, so we can go ahead and remove the tape. If your lining had gotten ajar, it's not the end of the world. Just use your seam ripper, pull out the stitches where they need to be pulled out. They might not need to be pulled out everywhere, and back up and do that step again. But if you've already unhooped it and you discover that that lining is all messed up, you are done. There's nothing you can do to fix that. And I can see already I'm going to have some big chunks of this vinyl to repurpose on other projects. Oh my goodness. What is that dog upset about? Grayson, does she need water? I don't know what she's upset about. All right. So since we have poly mesh, we don't need to tear it out. We'll just cut it alongside. I like to grab the scissors and get the big chunks, though, that I'm going to be able to reuse for, remember we tossed that stabilizer under for that, to support that stitching. So I like to save these big chunks because this stuff's not cheap. Nothing in embroidery is cheap. And you can reuse some of it, then do that. And even these small pieces you can use again. So I like to save those off. I just have a little bin down here. So now when we go to cut the lining, I'm going to go ahead and loosely cut my vinyl all the way around first because I have some big chunks here. I'm pulling it away from my lining, and I don't want to waste all these big chunks of vinyl. And then I'll return. So I'm just loosely cutting it a little bit farther outside my 1/4 inch seam allowance. And up here I have a nice big chunk there, strip there. That would be great for D-ring straps. Okay. There we go. I have a drawer for that too. Okay, now when we go to do our lining, we want to keep a little notch here to turn it, and that just helps us have a little bit better control to flip inside the fabric. So I like to do that little notch first. There, I apologize about the dog. Grayson! And then I can flip it over to the side where I can see the stitches better and trim it the rest of the way. So I'm going to trim it about 1/4 inch because I have fabric in here. If you were just doing vinyl, you could do 1/8 of an inch. Grayson! Can you see what she needs, please? There's long gradual curve here, and then up here we have some more significant curves. Oh, and I generally like to leave the zipper tape a little bit longer too, and I just cut it off. I will do better on the other side and show you what I mean. Let me do that right quick before I forget. So what I do is I pull the zipper tape down, and then I pull the zipper tape down on the back, and then I cut across my seam allowance. Don't cut your skin. And then on the other side, when I get to the cloth side, I do the same thing. I pull it down, cut across my seam allowance. And then I don't have my zipper cut. And then I like to leave about an extra 1/2 inch of the zipper. And do that on both sides. And then again, you can get your little lighter. Where'd the lighter go? And just melt those ends so they don't fray and come apart. So that's how I do that. So now I can come back up here and finish trimming this. And it's best not to trim this right over your machine and your laptop, but I don't have a setup where I can kind of move to another table to show you this. Not down here. I do upstairs, but it's a mess up there. A, and B, I don't like to use my multi-needle. There's a lot of thickness right there. I don't like to use my multi-needle for testing because you guys, a lot of people don't have a multi-needle. And a multi-needle will go through a lot of layers. And if I design my bags only for a multi-needle, then how do I know it's going to work in yours? Oops, I almost cut into my notch. Don't do that. Okay, so we're back to our beginning. There's our notch. So I'm going to go ahead and on this side, I'm going to trim it down to about 1/2 inch. And now we don't need the stabilizer and the vinyl to be there. So fold that down out of the way and then go ahead and trim it off. And that notch is going to help us when we go to fold the bag, turn it inside out. And this is not, I might need to extend that. We'll fold this, it'll help us glue this together and close it. Now down here at the little rounded off tip, I'm going to narrow this down a little bit, just a little bit, and go across just to get a smoother turnout. And then up here, let me show you from this side, I'm going to go ahead and notch these curves. Now on this one right here, I like to use, usually this Westcott knife or scissors works good for this. I like to come in at one side and go almost all the way down to that tip there. And then come in on the other side and the same thing. So it gets to be a really tight seam allowance, but it's stitched well there. So we've gone over it twice, so it should be okay. And then just cut that out. Do not cut into the stitching though. And that's gonna give us a little bit cleaner finish when we do it. And then go ahead and just notch along these curves. I do like either 60-degree or 90-degree notches. I don't measure them, I just randomly do them. So just notching it, and I'll pull those out in a second. And what the notching does is it allows that curve to lay down better in the bag. And it's hard to do it along the zipper edge. So we're just gonna leave that. I think this is a gradual enough one that we don't need to worry about it. So I'm just doing it along this edge where it's a little bit more. And up here I could have probably made this seam allowance a little bit thinner, but it's okay. That's why we're notching it. I think you guys can see me, right? All right, so now don't pull into the stitch and pull these out. And there you go. All right, throw this all away. Can't use that. And now's the fun part. So if you have hemostats, this is a good time to use them. What did I do with mine? I just had them earlier. Here they are. And what you can do is get inside your bag with the hemostats, like these rounded ones, and reach over to the far corner and pinch it in between those hemostats. And then they lock together right there, and then pull. I always start at the extreme corner from where my hole is at. And basically it's like having a third hand. It helps you pull the bag out right side out. And then just gently pull it out of the bag and gently fold this lining in so that you're kind of pulling the inside out and folding the lining right side out at the same time. Does that make sense? So we're going to come out to the lining first, and that's holding that so it's not going to fall back in there. Oh, don't tear your line, don't tear your, I just heard a thread break. Try not to break your threads. It's not the end of the world if you do, if your opening gets a little bigger, because you're going to be gluing it or permanent double stick tape, or sewing it, hand sewing it closed anyway. So just keep working it. It takes a couple of minutes, but be patient. Now, if you are have arthritic hands or something, then you want to be careful about what bags you choose to open or choose to make, because if they have smaller holes like this one, because it's on a curve, I had to make the hole a little bit smaller than I normally would for this size bag. But you might not have as easy. The other thing is with vinyl, if you heat it up with a blow dryer or toss it in the dryer for a few minutes, it does make it a little bit more pliable. And this is a marine vinyl. So now I'm going to go ahead and push this out on this side so the zipper's out. I like to try and get the bag pushed out as much as I can so it's right side out, looks like it should be. And then what we'll do is when we're all done, I'll toss this back out again. And what I do is I fold this in like so. So this is the edge where the stitching is at, and then I glue it, and I just go ahead and fold this back down and glue it and clip it in place until it's dry. But I wait until I turn the bag all the way out first before I do that, just in case there's anything messed up that I might need to fix at my sewing machine. I haven't gotten rid of my opening to do that. So now I'm flipping it right side out, and here's your little D-rings, D-ring, and then you'll see it doesn't look like very good shape right now, but if you just keep working with your hemostats and your hands, you can get all those curves pushed out. And the more you notch it and the more you thin that, the nicer it's going to look. I'm just pushing out from underneath, or you can use your hemostats and rub it along. Now that little, this little piece here is the harder piece. So what you can do is once you have the bag all turned, you can go ahead and roll this in between your fingers and take a clip like this and hold it there until like overnight, and that'll help set the vinyl and the memory of that vinyl, that little clip right there, that tight hole. And then it will leave little clip marks, but those clip marks will go away after a while. They'll freshen up. And see, now I have a little bit of a gradual seam up there, but I just need to keep working it and pushing it out. You can also like hang it, lay it under a heavy book, and the D-rings help pulls that little curve out on the side too, on that side. And then do the same thing all the way around the bag. So you can get your hemostats in there underneath the opening and pushed out if you need to. Now down here, I'm gonna have to try and push as much as I can, and I'm gonna get my little hemostats inside here. Gingerly, I'm gonna push, because I don't, when you're working with a vinyl you haven't worked with yet, you don't know how tough it is. All right, and then see, I got that little tip out, and sometimes I can just rub the hemostats alongside the curve inside, and it helps separate the vinyl and make it a nice gradual seam. And over here, and there we go. Now you go ahead and close it. And there's a cute little crossbody bag. I don't think it'll fit the smartphones in it. This is a 7x9. I'm gonna do 8x12, I think is what I have. But let's see, where'd my phone go? Oh, it's still in this bag. I think I'm gonna take a nap before we make dinner. It might fit the small, yeah, it's not gonna fit this one, but it might fit the small one. I don't have that one handy, my work phone. So, but I'll make the bigger one. And already you can see how that's holding that little seam down in just a short period of time. But the better you notch this, the nicer the finish you're gonna get. Got our cute little design in the center. I could have made that go up a little higher, but honestly, that's the first time I've ever done that. And there we go. And you just keep working it out with your fingers. And then you can put a book over it and flatten it down. And since I haven't closed it up, if I wanted to, I could go ahead and turn this around, turn it in right side out again, and try and trim the seam allowance a little bit better. Can you see the cute little motif there? That's a cute little bag. All right, guys, have a good one. Oh, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please click down there to that little red subscribe button. Hit the notification bell so you'll know when I'm going have new videos. And leave me a comment if you like, and like the video. So you have that little pucker there, but we could open that up a notch a little better, but I'm actually okay with that. All right, thanks everybody.